Okay. Um, Karen just gave. Let me see if that can be downloaded, Karen. It may not be able to. If you email it to me, maybe. That was table 8. So table 8 didn't follow the instructions. Oh no, table 8. There it is. I think I have table 8. Sound is very low. Guys, are you hearing me okay? Yep, looks like I'm getting some thumbs up. Yes, on my side. Okay. Um, Michelle, try refreshing your browser. That may be the issue. Okay, so we got some really long ones, involved ones. I'm glad we have a judge because there's no way I could have read through all of them. All right, so guys, let me tell you what the next steps are. I'm going to bring up. Oops, hit the wrong button there. Oops, sorry. Sorry. I'm going to bring up Lisa so that we can do the next step. So here's the next step. Lisa, can you turn on your microphone and your camera? Great. And Lisa, I sent you the email with the outputs. It's not enough. Okay. It's not in the format that we mentioned in terms of an Excel spreadsheet, but it came out as a text document. Okay. Boy, I should have shared that with you also, Lisa, but I know you wouldn't have had time to read them. So, all right, guys. So here's the story. I don't think we're quite going to have enough time to work with all the teams in terms of having you work with your spokesperson for the next round of competition here or the next round of reporting. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you for volunteers. And this is kind of a first come, first serve kind of thing. So if you're a spokesperson, I want you to volunteer. And here's how I want you to volunteer. Don't type volunteer in the chat because that's not the way. But here's the process before you know that. I've seen the comment. All right, so the spokesperson is going to come up on stage and share their table exercise outputs, and we'll offer them coaching from the 10 gamification elements. And my nighty and nightcap. LC, you can you can turn off the camera and we can work with you. We can work with you on your microphone so we don't have to see your bed stuff. Okay, so here. Let me tell you the outputs. Lisa, you should see the outputs.
I'm not seeing the email though.
No, I didn't send it yet.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, I sent it to Samantha. Trust me, if you started to read the email, it would take you 20 minutes to get through. All right, guys, here's how you volunteer. Raise your hand at the bottom of the screen, and I'll take them first come, first served. So let's see who volunteers first. Enid and Rajiv have volunteered already. So that's 2. So who else would like to volunteer? Is it just Enid? Oh, here's Karen. Great. That's 3. Who else would like to volunteer? LC. LC, just for fun, we might ask you to come first. Don't turn on your camera. Just turn on your microphone and we'll work with you. All right, so LC, you want to come up and be ready to discuss the 3 elements of the exercise? And let me bring it. LC, I'm going to bring you up. Okay. Here we go. Guys, you must have a laptop to volunteer. We can't bring you up if all you have is a cell phone. Not seeing LC. Says she's on stage. LC, we might be having an issue with your bandwidth. Refresh your screen. Oh, here we go. It took a while. LC.
Yes, please.
Yes, you're now famous.
But
So
I can't be
Elsie,
seen, right? I can't be seen, right?
that's all right. We've all been there and done that. We all guys give Elsie some cheers, please, with the icons. Some applause, some thumbs up. Please give her some
Oh,
support
that's
because
so
she's being
sweet.
very brave. See, your team members love you. What team were you on, Elsie? What table were you
Uh,
on?
table 6.
6. Oh, that's the one with the long report. All right, so I'm gonna put table 6. I'm gonna put your report in the chat.
I'm from Barbados. What's that?
I think we all figured that part.
Oh my
All that
goodness.
part out. Okay, so Elsie, can you take us through the game that you guys chose, the popular game, and then the parts that you found fun, functional, and engaging, and then take us through your application of that game and the principles to onboarding.
Francis, thank you. That is a mouthful. Help me, Jesus. Um, so our group, our table, we agreed that we would do an old time child's game, that we would use snakes and ladders as
Yeah.
our game of choice. And we shared some of our experiences with onboarding, and none of us had a very good experience. We were just introduced and thrown in. One of our members, our participants, said that she her onboarding experience was that she went into a job very young to answer the telephone, and she was
Uh-huh.
placed in front of the telephone and said, answer the telephone. And the person left and the phone was ringing. She didn't know how to operate the PBX or whatever. And then persons were behind her saying, but she don't plan to answer the phone. So then she answered the phone and said, hello. Right? So we've shared, similar experiences, and we use snakes and ladders to how to better the onboarding experience.
All right.
And
I'm dying to hear this part because I've
right.
played Snakes and Ladders. I know a little bit
Yes.
about onboarding, and boy, I can't see a connection. Go ahead, Elsie. With that, Lisa and I are dying to hear this part. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. But we don't know if this is right, but this is how we imagined it. So we would use the snakes and ladders. I think everybody's familiar with it. You have a dice, you roll it, and if it comes on a ladder, you go up the ladder, so you get promoted up without having to really go through all of the various channels. And if you land on a snake, you get demoted and you go right back down to, somewhere further down from where you were.
Right.
So in the onboarding process, we decided that we would redesign using snakes and ladders for the first. We made our onboarding process a 3-day process out of the 90-day probationary period. And what we decided to do was that on day one, um, and this is when we roll the dice. So we were on day one, we rolled the dice, and on day one, when we rolled the dice, we got to a ladder. And that ladder showed us what we would do on day one as HR practitioners. And we said on day one, we will introduce the new hire to key persons in the organization, especially who they will directly report to.
Okay, that's
And we will
useful.
spend some time going through all of the administrative work in terms of getting their payroll information together, their social security information, their contract sign on day one. We will show them where they will be seated, where the washrooms are, the lunchrooms are, and all of that will be their first ladder on day one. And if we were in a proper run organization, we will also introduce them to a buddy system where we would introduce them to a very model employee who will be hand holding them, so to speak, throughout their 30-day process along with their supervisor. And then we roll the dice again, and hark, it came on a snake. And our snakes were things, for instance, um, the the new hire came to work late. So that we considered a snake.
Okay,
She
that's a
she
go
couldn't
down.
remember, right? So she went down. Other process is she forgot to clock in. Um, she came back late, and those kind of things are snakes along the way in our
That's
game.
very good.
Those
Oh,
are some
Elsie, that's
examples,
great.
right?
Wow.
She
Wow.
forgot her PPEs, etc. Then she and one of her team one of her team members, the team members didn't like how she had her hair, so the team members started to treat her,
Keeping it
slightly.
real.
Yeah, so right, so the snakes weren't just systems and processes or things that she did wrong. It was also how the culture of the organization, some of the negative things within the culture of the organization that we use as snakes. um,
Wow.
Another
Oh,
Oh, she got cut off.
her bandwidth looked like it expired. Um, well, we could pause there because she's given us a whole lot.
That's quite a bit.
Right. So Lisa, in terms of the design that Elsie shared, which were the elements that she used that they incorporated into their design? So we're gonna move into the feedback part, Elsie, just for the sake
thing.
of time. You guys did great. Let me just go ahead, Lisa.
Right. So I think first of all, we start off with the goals because that's
Okay.
important. What's the goal of this gamification effort? And it's to introduce the new person to the organization and the organization's culture and policies. And that's one of the very first things. I don't know if you want us to just talk through all the elements or just
Yeah, I could. Let me add a little bit to it. Elsie, I'm gonna put you on mute because I'm getting a little bit of feedback, just so that you know.
Certainly.
Okay. Okay. But you can unmute yourself when we're ready to bring you back in. Um, yeah, I thought of goals. The thing about snakes and ladders is that there's a very clear goal. But
right.
when you come into an onboarding situation, you kind of never know when it's going to end, other than that your probation ends in 3 months. But your onboarding doesn't end in 3 months. Your onboarding ends when it should end, when some specific measurable result has been accomplished. And in snakes and ladders, that's very clear. But when you're onboarding, usually it's all fuzzy and kind of, if they like you as your boss, kind of, and just because you get through probation doesn't necessarily mean that you're onboarded well. So that's a great, having a clear goal is like absolutely essential in gamification, and it would make a huge difference. Go ahead, Lisa. That's the
Exactly.
one. Great.
And so also thought about levels, the whole ladder
Levels.
um, metaphor there. It's really about, going through various levels of the onboarding experience. There's a day one, the day two, the day three. And so the gamification effort could be designed in levels so that you accomplish, specific activities at each level. And at each level you are, you've met those goals, you've accomplished those goals, and those are identified in some way as you having met them. And so you can move on to the next level, because the first level, for example, being aware of, contracts, payroll info, etc., and then moving on to other things. So levels will be very important there as part of the gamification experience.
Right. The one thing I've never heard or thought of before is that usually in games, leveling is a positive upward experience, but in snakes and ladders, there's a down. So that's more realistic in my mind, because most games are designed so there's only an up, there's not a down. But in real life, the downs mean, just like Elsie said, the downs would be these negative experiences. And if you can prepare the onboardee for the negative experiences ahead of time, which is what I think she's saying they would do, they would actually
Right.
prepare the individual for the moments when things aren't working. Because I'm pretty sure that most onboarding focuses on all the good stuff, but not too much of the bad stuff, because you kind of don't want to scare them at this point.
Right.
But
And something that I thought about, Francis, is just that, from day one, they wanted this person to get going. And there are times when there is, a little bit of leeway, or some days before you actually know that you've gotten the job, and when you actually start. And, the onboarding experience sometimes could even start just before, especially when you want to get that person going from day one. So
right,
that could be
right.
very important to
Some
help
companies
to
do that, I
prepare.
think. I think some do that. They get people, somehow get people going. I know there are companies that even bring them in for training before they're even hired, or between the hiring date and the start date. They actually train them, and some of them make it contingent that if they get through the training, then they get the job.
Yes,
So
I've
there's
seen that
all,
example.
yeah, see some examples, right? Right. The thing I loved about Snake and Ladders is that it's very clear feedback. You know how you're doing at any point in time, and what the great. I think what, not say hurts people, but really annoys people about onboarding is, as a new employee, is that if you're particularly coming from school where you get a lot of feedback, you come into a work situation and the feedback you get is either poor, vague, not timely, too late, or you just get none at all. That's mostly what happens to most people, at least here in the Caribbean. You just don't hear anything.
Yeah.
So you're kind of reading the tea leaves and wondering, do they like what I'm doing? Do they not like what I'm doing? Snakes and Ladders makes it very clear. And that's the kind of clarity that that people who are onboarding, they crave. They really, really want that. It's just that you have to really do a lot of work to get your managers to give good feedback. And even to prepare the employee that, listen, this is not school. You're not going to get the feedback that you had when you were at school. This is a lot more, and tell them the truth. I don't think when folks are on board, they're really told that particular truth.
Right.
Tamisha just added a comment. The snake and ladder concept could potentially alert the company early about the issues new hires are having early in an easy, stress-free manner. Yeah, especially after if you brought them back. So if you took a bunch of folks who were onboarded a year ago and you told them, okay, redesign the onboarding process using snakes and ladders, they probably would come up with something that's so real it probably couldn't be used for prime time. So Tamisha, what you're saying is so right, and they actually have the first-hand experience to be able to do this redesign. So as HR, you don't have to do it all yourself. You can get people who've been through the process and then have them do it. All right, so we're ready for the next. LC, thank you so much. Sorry, I had to take it all because of the muting, but guys, thank LC. That was an excellent job. So guys, who's next? I don't want anybody to get too intimidated by what LC just did with us, but we have Enid and Karen and Rajiv, I think, was also. Let's take Rajiv. You keep bouncing out, so I think there's a issue with your bandwidth, but let me take Enid. Enid from Guyana. Enid from Guyana. Enid, just turn on your microphone and tell me what table you were at. Hi, Enid.
Hello. Hi, Francis. Hello,
What
Miss
table were you
Lisa.
at once
So
again?
we were at table 14.
14. I
Yeah,
saw that one. Hopscotch.
hopscotch.
All right. Go ahead, madam.
All right. So we would have chosen hopscotch as the game. It's a game that was common for all persons at the table. We discovered there were some little differences, but nothing major. It was basically the same principle. So for the first one, we said it's a popular game that requires players to toss a small object into numbered rectangles outlined on the ground. I think most persons are familiar with hopscotch. In Guyana, we would say persons to get a baby, but I learned that I had two members from Jamaica who said you call it a man. So we call it baby, and other places call it a man. What makes it engaging? The design. It's a really good game. It calls for strategy. It requires movement, which is important. It requires players to know the strengths and weaknesses of their team members. Because if you have persons who cannot jump well, then you wouldn't you kind of want the persons who can jump well to move ahead. What else did we say? We said that it requires teamwork, and we love the fact that it requires movement. I think I said that already. In terms of onboarding, most persons in the group had a bad experience with onboarding for the first job. It's basically throwing you in at the deep end of the pool. I, on the other hand, had a very good experience. My first job, I was a teacher, very young, at a secondary school. And my head of department basically took me in under her wing, and she showed me everything that I needed to do. It was a mixture of coaching and mentoring. And I still remember the experience till now, because it really, whenever I'm now in training and in designing our onboarding program, I always reflect on how she took me in and how she made it engaging. So
Great. And how did you apply the hopscotch to the onboarding?
Right. So we applied it in terms of increasing engagement. What we spoke about is to have on, let's say, day one, to have each department represented as a square within the hopscotch. Each number representing, for example, number one, the first department, you want the new employee to engage with will be HR, and then as it goes up, finance might be somewhere in the middle there, and then they will end where is basically operations. So at each level, they learn something new and they move on to have basically how the desks basically are situated for them to move through so they can learn about the organization. And also to get bite-sized information about the company.
Okay.
So that's how we were thinking to apply it, so that persons really get familiar with the company.
Okay. Lisa, you want to go first?
Well, so cooperation is, the element that immediately comes to mind with the team effort that will be involved with this, Francis. So if you want to go ahead with that one.
Sure. Or that was one of mine. Okay, right. Uploading cooperation. It's trying
and while
to
you do
upload
that,
it.
so and of course, the goals again would relate here. It's about learning about the organization, learning about the different strengths and weaknesses of the different team members. So
yes, that's important too.
Right.
So that's, I don't know which principle that applies to, but let me talk about cooperation first. So the gamification, most people, when they think gamification, they think competition. But hopscotch is a good example because it's not, as far as I remember, it's not, and the little I know, it's not a competition in that there is a winner and a loser. It's not us versus them. It's each person
It's
has
a
a turn.
competitive game, actually. but
Sorry.
teams. So there are two teams who actually vie, to complete the game first, but then each team works together. So there is cooperation, but within the
Okay,
specific
within the
teams.
team. Okay,
Correct.
okay. So in the slide that I put in, there's a range of ways of thinking about cooperation. On the high end, there are games that are completely cooperative that have no competitive element whatsoever. They're only about us playing to have fun. Can you think of one of those, Enid? Put you on the spot.
Where you only play to
Just
have
to have
fun.
fun. There's not like a winner. There's no a winner and a loser.
No. But I hide and seek. How we played hide and seek, it was
Yeah.
pretty competitive.
You had a winner.
Yeah, we played as teams, and you had to hide pretty well so you're not found, so your team doesn't lose.
Okay. Yeah, teams.
But I don't know. I'm stuck in the mud. I'm not
Okay.
one. Well,
You play
I
tag,
know
right?
recreational cycling. What game?
Tag. Did you play tag? Which is like
I I I,
where you run and you touch somebody and they become
I know
it and they
tag,
touch
but
somebody else.
that's competitive too. All the games I played as a child, it was very competitive. I grew up with three brothers, so everything was competitive.
Okay.
There we go.
We have some examples in the chat. Bull in a pen is not competitive. Farmer in the Dell,
The farmer in the dell.
Punchinella, not competitive. And cards, solitaire games in cards are not competitive. So there's not a winner and a loser.
Uh-huh.
So when you're designing your games, you have a choice whether to make them competitive,
Competitive
sorry,
or not.
cooperative. If they're competitive, then it's actually medium cooperation because you have to cooperate around the rules. You can't have
Oh.
someone who tries to change the rules in midstream.
Mm-hmm.
People who try to change the rules in midstream, they're either at war or they're in politics. Politics, apparently, the rules change in midstream and people try to discard the old rules. So that's an
So is it?
example of. Go
Oh.
ahead.
Now I was going to ask, is it recommended that you use cooperation games and not necessarily competitive?
Let me ask the expert, Lisa.
Uh, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. You know, would the activities require that members work together to do something, or does it require, that they're going to pit themselves against each other? If you
Mm-hmm.
want for the onboarding experience, just for them to all, be aware, get to know each other, as you had mentioned, their strengths and
Mm-hmm.
weaknesses, then perhaps, you wouldn't necessarily want them to be competing or, to have a
Yeah.
competitive type game, right? So
Mm-hmm.
perhaps the goal then would be cooperation,
And
right?
I'm
So it all
guessing it
depends on the
probably
intent.
depends. Yeah. I'm guessing it
And
probably depends on the culture of the company as well.
Mhm.
right, that's important too. And even I mean, hopscotch sometimes. I suppose any one person could also play hopscotch. You don't have anybody around. So it could be a kind of single
Yes.
player. Um, just playing. So the different modes in which just providing choices, right, or options as to how it is that you can engage. In this game, where okay, if you choose to compete, then you have an option that you can actually go ahead and do so. Otherwise, if you want to work together, then
Yeah.
that's the option as well. This would also be important, and that's one of the
Yeah.
gamification principles that makes it engaging, so that you're not forced to compete if you don't want to. Right? You can work together. So giving options would be important as well.
But
Right.
how we
There's
applied it is not competitive because how we applied it is for each person to actually go through the process of, moving through each boxes and learning about the company.
I,
So
that's
maybe
good.
on completion, they get some kind of a prize, which means that everybody gets it once they move through each aspect. If it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes at each point, as you finish the lower numbers, you move up until you would have covered the entire company.
I had an experience of super hyper competitive people when I helped. I was at the onboarding for my friend who was he'd gotten into Harvard Business School,
Mm-hmm.
and if you can imagine the kind of folks who go to Harvard Business School, they're extremely type A, extremely focused, and extremely intense, just like he was. And during this onboarding exercise, someone came up to me, and said, "Oh, hi. Which section are you in? Which 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 teaching section are you in?" And I said, "Oh, no, I'm not here. I'm just here with a friend." And she said, "Oh," and she just dismissed me one time.
Oh my
I
God.
was of no value after that. It was cold and hard, and I never forgot that experience. And I was watching people competitively network because that was a very much a up or out system where at least something like 20% or somewhere between 10 and 20 got cut after the first semester. And part of your survival meant finding the right people to be in your team. And the team had to be in your section. So that first getting to know you was really about weeding out the weak ones and finding the strong ones so that you could survive this experience. Ultra competitive and really kind of not very nice for me. But I guess for the school, it achieved their objective. All right. Enid, anything else you want to add to what you had there for about hopscotch applying to the onboarding experience?
No, not really. I think everything that we would have discussed, I spoke about.
All right, great. Enid, thank you so much. Guys, thank Enid for coming
Thank
up and being our
you.
second guinea
Thanks,
pig.
Enid.
And third up, we have Mr. Rajiv or Karen Greaves. Let me take Mr. Rajiv. He's the first guy. So, Karen, get yourself ready. We'll soon bring you up. Mr. Rajiv.
Good evening.
All right, Mr. Rajiv. Which team were you in?
Table three with Akeem, Rita, and Rico.
I am looking for table three. Table three. Okay, that was. Hang on, I'm seeing a very short note. Did you guys use Scrabble? Was that you?
No, we use Monopoly.
Monopoly. Monopoly. I saw Monopoly.
We were having some issues with Benji loading, so we sent like two very small notes.
Okay, I have the one note.
That's okay. I
All right,
remember
you
it.
have to explain it to us. Go ahead. Go for
All
it.
right. So our team chose Monopoly. And if anyone knows anything about a Monopoly, it's a game where you fight to the death. You malice your family members for weeks. So how could you use Monopoly for onboarding to bring the team together instead of walking out the first day? So for our Monopoly, we chose to say, let's say you hired some persons, they came in a group of, let's say, 8. And the beauty about Monopoly is, let's say you hired HR persons only. The game could be tweaked where we use it for HR, or if it's a general onboarding where you have persons from different departments, it works just the same. So the rules are simple. You roll the dice, you go around the board, we all know how Monopoly works. But instead of buying property for yourself and doing all of this, there are certain objectives to the game. Now, when you start, if you remember Monopoly, you issue out a certain amount of money. Um, this one, you'll get certain cards. And the card, you have certain attributes of your character. So usually you would use a shoe or a car, whatever it is. So my character, Rajiv, it would say Rajiv is good at his strength is accounting. And his weakness may be like resume, interpreting resumes. Akeem on our team, he's good at resume, international resume personnel after all, and his weakness may be marketing for argument's sake. So instead of money, um, as you can see from Roxanne writing in the chat, we use merit points or merit cards instead of the money. And as you go around the board, there are certain obstacles and hindrances. So in Monopoly, you have community chess and chance, and when you land on it, you get certain cards. You'll have to do certain things. Advance to the nearest airport or go to this property. Now, when you go there, there's always some objective that you meet. So as you get sent to specific places on the board, as you go around the board, there's certain objectives that you have to do. Now, let's say one of the objectives has to do with talent acquisition and looking at a resume. I land there as the person who needs to look at the resume. But remember, my card says my weakness is resume and my strength is accounting. So using critical thinking, this is where teamwork comes in. If I'm thinking correctly, the employee coming in is thinking correctly, they should know that, okay, who here is good at resume building? And that's when it comes to teamwork. Teamwork. So you know that each person has a strength and a weakness. You work together. Instead of building, everyone has their set of hotels and houses. We're all trying to build one, let's say something in the center of the board. You're building up the organization, but you have to pull your weight. Now, let's say something happened, Akeem goes off by himself, he does something that costs him his merit points or his money. If he goes down to zero, it means he can't help the team. Oftentimes in real life, a team member may, not pull their weight for whatever reason, and now we have to pull overtime. So now that we have to pick up Akeem's slack, it's that each of us start to lose merit points because it's a cost of us having to do his work, whether it is you're drained or, less family time, whatever it is. So as you go around the board, the point is there's various obstacles, various risks, but also various rewards. Now, at the end of the game, there's always going to be two types of winners. So, of course, some people will do better in the organization. That's genuinely how life goes. And each person, depending on how well you do in the game, you'll get virtual badges. So similar to, let's say, LinkedIn, I think we discussed, you'll have something on your profile that can be viewed in the company to say, this person has 9 badges, 3 badges, however many for the year. The purpose we use Monopoly as an onboarding game is to say, this is the culture here at the company. While you're here, we'll have competitions between departments. We'll have competitions, like, well, not even just competitions, but as you go on with your life at the company, if you do certain things, you'll get a badge. So let's say it was a client-based company. If you bring in a certain client or however well the reception or the reviews from the client, you'll get a certain badge. The team will get a badge or you'll get a badge. So at the end of the game, let's say I'm the overall winner, I had 10 badges, but the team had 8. It means the team was successful, but maybe, Rika is the MVP or I'm the most valuable person of that team at the time. And lastly, how this works is, in the end, so let's say this onboarding happens January. When it comes to December, you're doing your performance review. And you automatically look and you see this person has 20 badges over the course of 12 months. So this goes to show that for 12 months, and it's not just about the amount of badges, but it's a type of badges. Because you have individual badges and you have team badges. You could see that this person was a team player. They helped to advance the company by this way. So it shows their value in the company. It shows that they, employed some level of teamwork, as well as you need badges to say, I'm not just part of a team. If Dr. Facey, you know how it is in university. You have a group of 4. I put my name on the project. The team does well. I get my badge. You need individual badges as well. So it's a great blend. It shows how you interact with others. Of course, you can always go off and do it yourself. But the point is, if one person fails and as a result the project fails, we all fail. They're as strong as your weakest link, and that's what it is. One thing I shared when I was starting in terms of onboarding, there wasn't much onboarding when I'm starting various jobs, but I remember when I was starting at the Giselle, I walked in the first day and they brought us to the cafeteria. So this is the head office downtown here in Jamaica. And we went to the cafeteria. For the persons who know it, that's where Islandville and all the places are. We sat around the table, and before any introduction, they're like, do you want coffee or tea or what type of muffin do you want? Chocolate chip? Or it's weird because I came in nervous. At the time, this was 2016, I was in university. I was nervous. I was like, I thought I'm supposed to be going through cubicle to cubicle, meeting all these people. And it got me to relax because here I am going to work. but they took me out of the office. You're sitting, the wind is blowing, and you're just getting to know each other. And they did that essentially to say, you have a company laptop. So when it is that you need to work, you don't need to sit at a cubicle. If you want to come down here, you want to go somewhere where you're comfortable, as long as you meet the deadlines. So this game is just basically showing that you have your individual tasks, you have your team tasks. Doing this, it shows you how our company run. We do competitions like this all the time. Rika would kill me if I didn't say this. For the reward, not only do you get virtual badges, but you get company swag. She says you need something tangible. So if you're the overall best player that day, you get a company logo mug or a stress ball or something, copyright, something pertaining to that to say, that's how it is. And if 8 of us came in that day and I knew no one in the office, this is a forever bond to say we had this Monopoly game that we played when we came in. And the cards that you take up, it really has certain stuff like the rules of the company. So it's not a random game. Everything is purposeful. So how it would say you go to jail, you would lose certain points. When you go around and you do something you're not supposed to, you land at a certain spot, you get suspended without pay for whatever reason. So there's risk, there's reward to show you that as you progress through this company, while we play games and we're happy and everything, you have to do your work, you have to respect others. The community chest and the chance type cards basically show what the organization rules are. You keep yourself well groomed, how you dress, you're not late for work. These are the things that we do. So without taking up much of your time, that's basically
Plenty design. Job,
Boy, that was just a comprehensive, very comprehensive, and no involved there, Francis. I mean, really,
Same thing I found.
points,
Which one you want? Which one you
the
think we should?
rewards.
You wanted to, which one have we not talked about? Challenges? You
We
want
could probably
challenges?
talk about challenges and
All
rewards.
right, it'll be
Points.
which one? The
We have
points, right?
challenges,
So
we have
there was
rewards, we
points.
have points.
There were challenges. So, guys, the reason why, as you probably know, the reason why we're outlining these is because these are your building blocks. And Rajiv went through them so fast and he had them all baked in. And he had rewards. Now, rewards are one of the things I want to say about rewards. Rewards can be very, very dicey. And the reason they can be dicey is, so I'm going to tell you a quick story. There was a bunch of kids who used to stone the zinc roof of an old man every night going home from school, sorry. And he'd come out and he'd cuss them off and they'd run off and they'd have fun and they got more friends and they came back the next day, they stoned the roof again. He'd come out and they run off and they'd say, yeah, man, this is a great game. So the third day they came back, he comes out, but he's not doing all of his antics. He says, come here. And they're like, no, run. They said, no, I have some money for you. What? And he says, I like it when you stone my roof. I'll give you $1 if you come back tomorrow and stone my roof. And they go, what? Yeah, man. So they come back tomorrow and they stone the roof. And he comes out and he gives them the $1. And he says, well, thank you. It's great. If you come back the next day, I'll give you, I don't have that much money. I'll give you 25 cents. And they say, all right, yeah, man, it's money. Come back. So they come back the following day, they stone the roof. He comes out and he gives them the 25 cents. He says, boy, you guys have really cleaned me out because now it's lots of kids. He says, come back tomorrow. I give you each 1 cent each. I can afford that. And them said, no, sir, 1 cent. I ain't not coming back for that. So it's a tale, right? Which is all about intrinsic motivation being replaced by extrinsic motivation. And one of the problems with rewards, this is why I put up that book, Punished by Rewards by Alfie Kohn, is that there's a very delicate balance you have to play when you give external rewards, because people can become too fixated on the external reward and thereby give up their internal intrinsic motivation. It happens all the time with new employees, as you can imagine. They come in all happy. I don't need to get paid. I love this work. I'm glad to have a job. I love the people. We're awesome. And then in 3 months, 6 months time, they're like scraping together the paycheck, cussing because it's not enough, and look how much tax them take, and they leave early on Friday evening, and then but the extrinsic has replaced the intrinsic. So as designers, you have to be very, very careful about using external rewards because this dynamic is so human and it can happen. Lisa, anything to add to that or any others?
Well, just to mention for the points, because Rajiv had mentioned about just when you have a particular challenge, for example, and you don't meet it, that just recognition that this is a very important challenge. Here are some things that are very important to the organization for them to understand that, you don't get the points or you get negative points, really, which is, ties into the rewards as well. But this is so important, and it's important that you understand that we care much about our branding. We care much about this particular project. If it fails, then the entire team fails. The organization is, but not failing, but it's very serious to the organization. And so it's important that persons understand that sometimes when you have these negative points that you're applying, to this, it is because we take this so important. All right. So, it was just such a comprehensive set of strategies and inclusion of elements. And altogether, they really, really made a very important game. And I think you should actually go and design that one, Rajiv.
Yeah, Rajiv. Tell your management team that.
Design that one.
But you're the management team, though.
Who?
If I had to stop and design everything up here, I mean, I'd never get anything else done right now.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Very important.
Please,
very, very important.
Please acknowledge Rajiv. Clap, clap, clap. Karen, you're going to have to come up and do your thing in like 1 minute because we are short of time. Rajiv, if you can turn off your microphone, let me bring up Karen. Karen, you have like 2 seconds. Really quick. Karen Greece from Trinidad. So we have Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad, Guyana. Well, we have everybody. Karen, go ahead.
Okay.
Good evening, madam.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I would just say ditto to everything that Rajiv just said, but no, seriously. Our team of Javel and Christine, our game was Go Fish. And the purpose was, I'm going fast, right, guys? Purpose to energize and animate ownership of the company's artifacts, culture, knowledge, to empower sense of belonging and engagement. And our first onboarding, 2 very good experiences where a comprehensive package with SOPs given and mentor assigned. And we borrowed on that heavily to develop the game. So we would give the package with conversations and exploratory engagement and so on. And your mentor is actually your cheerleader. The gamification comes in because it's fun while you learn elements of your needs theory for competition, yes, and motivation. Prizes would increase knowledge, participation, belonging, a sense of satisfaction, which ultimately leads to productivity, which ultimately leads to relationship and connectivity. And in so doing, the organization earns more profits. We went on to say that this can be incorporated in all areas of the organization. So your core strategies, your mission, your vision, your values, in your people, processes, and technology. And the game is played this way. You match, for example, the images, the names and designations of the most important people in your organization, the influencers, the CLT team, and then you get points. As you accumulate points, you can get 4 consecutive successful matching as per Go Fish, because you're matching like and like. And you will get points towards a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that then chimes and overflows. So you get that recognition. If, however, you have 3 unsuccessful matches of information, products, services, customer delivery, engagement, influencers, leadership, corporate responsibility, and so on, then you lose a percentage of points. So your similar, your merits and your zonks. And at the end of that, you can play individuals against individuals and departments. Ultimately, the highest ranked players at the end of the quarter, you get to be highlighted in a Hall of Fame. Prizes are provided. These can be very tangible. They can be accumulated. And at the end of fiscal year, the highest ranked individual and or highest ranked team gets to go off to the Sandals Resort in Jamaica. Yay!
Yay!
That was the fast version. Of course, it's predicated on Maslow's hierarchy of needs and that sense of belonging. Guys, when you feel that you're valued and appreciated, and there is that, paternalistic type engagement in organizations, no competitor can match it because there's a vested interest in the entire team doing well. Not just what you do at work, but you as an individual, the name of your dog, the children doing C exams, somebody suffering from COVID. And when that comes together, unbeatable.
Great. Lisa, which we'll take one of the principles. Anyone that we haven't mentioned so far that you could highlight from Karen's presentation?
I'm looking at the remaining ones. I'm seeing rules. I'm seeing
I thought of
rules,
options. Did we
storyline
not
would-
use options?
I think we mentioned options.
Mention options. So storyline.
Well, I'm
Story-
not sure if storyline would apply here. I mean, well, you could always design the game in the form of a story so that, you put together the scenario and, ultimately you want to ensure that, it's a team working together. So you build along those lines and, so you have that kind of engagement taking place. So it could be designed, game could be designed in such a way, right? So that you build the story, scenarios that you mentioned in. I'm just looking back in the.
I thought of
some
journey
those things.
because it has a definite journey from kind of being clueless to being knowledgeable. So I thought that a story could be built around going from knowing nothing to knowing a great deal of information. So you could actually pass a quiz, I guess, at the end of the game, or have accumulated bits of information. In terms of the accumulation, I actually remembered a financial institution here in Jamaica. They put in place a engagement game, basically, where you carried around a card, and by the end of a month or a week, some time frame, you had to have 5 pieces of feedback and 5 pieces of acknowledgement on the card, guys. So you actually had to carry a piece of paper. When you got feedback, the person would initial it that they gave you feedback, and at the end of the month, you had to have your card filled out. And they said this thing worked like gangbusters. So it's kind of similar to Karen, what Karen is saying, but you would walk around with some blank questions. You go to the individual and you have them answer it, and then they could initial that they gave you the answer. So that way you're meeting all these people and you're filling out a practical little piece of paper. That little piece of paper could drive so much behavior that it's life-changing.
All right.
All right, guys. So time is upon us. It is 5 past all kinds of hours. And we are going to bring up Karen. I'm going to have you go back down. Thank you so much. There's some applause for Karen. Let's bring up our judge. Let me bring up our judge so we can get some judging. There's a question somewhere in here. Let me see what the question is. Hang on, let me do a couple of housekeeping things. Let me run going down. The question is, I'm not seeing the question. Not seeing it. Somebody put the question in the chat. Is it possible to get the tenets of gamification just in one area? Yes, that's the next slide. So let me just drop that in there. One location. What we don't have is like a definition page. That would have taken them quite a bit more. But before I get to Samantha, I want to let you know that we have some free coaching from very valuable coaching if you're interested in gamifying a program that you're already designing. So we don't want you to design a brand new program. We want you to either be already designing a program or have a program already in play and you're thinking of gamifying it. So this is the Ask Lisa small group coaching program, and you can see the details there. So this is, I'm going to leave it to Lisa to decide who gets to be in the program. It's no more than 5 people. This is a small, short opportunity to delve into the area. Samantha, are you typing? Samantha. Samantha sending me email already. So this is coming to come. It's going to start in the next couple of weeks. And if you're interested, just send me an email as soon as you can. And Lisa will get back to you. And also, we're going to be doing a survey. It's going to be about your knowledge of gamification. And that's also coming your way. We're gathering some data. And I want to introduce you to Samantha, because Samantha, by the way, we didn't invite Samantha just because she's nice and cheery and likable and huggable. She's actually, you probably know her as an OD specialist, but she actually has all kinds of experience in gamification and numerous certifications in the area. So it's an area that she's been growing, focusing on. Her master's is in e-business, and she's been applying that with a sense of marketing to also gamification. Samantha, did I characterize you correctly?
I think so.
All right, great. All right. So, Madame Judge, over to you.
All right. So some really, really good ideas came through. And there were a few that there were really short descriptions. And I wish we had more time, because I really wanted to hear everybody, because the description didn't do you justice. As you know, there's some that are just 4 lines. And so I'm like, okay, where's the rest? Because I want to hear about this. And I know we're cramped for time. So I'm just going to give you the top 3. And one of the top 3 is what I would call the most promising team that was really good. Just a few elements that were missing that I think there's a lot of potential to develop. And the overall winning team that had most of the elements that Dr. Lisa would have shared in the chat. And so what I was looking for, apart from the elements, the 3 things that Francis asked for: was it fun, was it functional, and was it engaging? And so those are the 3 things that really were very important. So going through, the team that came in third was one of the Monopoly teams, but it wasn't the one that actually presented this evening. So table number 7. I thought that your idea was really good. It was thought out. There were a few things that I wanted to see based on what we look for, so that we understood functionally exactly how it worked. So how do you exactly get these points, and based on the levels and the teams. So there's a little more information there that I thought would be helpful, so that you explain to us that we could just, we can pick it up, but we can know how to play right away. The team that came in second, which also was the most promising team that I really loved the idea, good storyline, functional, I think there were a few elements missing as well there. I wanted to know, okay, so what happens at each level? Is it a quiz? Is it how do you move to the next level? Are you asked questions? How do you know where to go next and what happens? So it was potentially a lot of fun and engaging, but I think there were some things that were missing that could add to it, and that was table number 6 with snakes and ladders. So if I can make a suggestion to Francis, table number 6, maybe they get to have a session with Dr. Lisa and fully develop their idea, because I thought that was quite good. I love the idea of going up the ladder, and if you don't do what's right, you don't answer right, or you don't do what's right, then you may actually go down, the snake. So I thought that was great. And the table that was number 1, drum roll.
Drum roll, drum roll, drum roll, drum roll.
Drum roll.
Emoticons.
Was number 1, really comprehensive. So let me see here. I wrote down they had all the right things. So in terms of the story, they were good, functional, fun. There was rewards. There was risk and rewards. It was engaging. It was competitive. Also, there were all the great elements were in there. Still, some more things can be developed, but in the space of time that you had, I think you did a great job. And that was table number 3.
Who was the presenter for that one?
So table number 3, and table number 3, you were great.
Okay, Rajiv.
So yes, I mean, I think that table number 3, I think they deserve Dr. Lisa's book, but I know it's only in hard copy at the moment. But I think that's what they should get, Francis, if we can make that happen.
Dr. Lisa, because these people are all over the Caribbean,
They're all over.
And it's a nice thick thesis.
Dr.
Lisa has a limited budget.
Okay. Well, we'll see what we could do for table number 3, but I thought that really good idea. Dr. Lisa, I don't know if you agree or disagree with the judging, you can let me know, but I thought that it was job well done for all the teams.
I thought you did a job well done.
Aw, thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. Table number 3, tell us your names in the chat so we know who you are. I only know that Rajiv was table number 3, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Rajiv and company. Rajiv, Rita, Akeem, and Wait, they all start with R? No, Enrica. Table 3. Okay, great. Okay, folks. So
fantastic.
We're just about to not quite wrap up, but go into networking mode. So we're gonna go back into networking mode so you can meet and talk with each other. Well, but we don't have much time.
Aww,
we have
thank you,
only about 6 minutes of networking time, unfortunately, because we had pretty much so much fun doing this whole part of the evening. But the question that we would want you to carry into networking when we go back into conference mode is, what are you planning to implement from tonight's gamification webinar? And let me thank first Samantha, or Judge. Excellent job, analysis and recommendations on top of it. And to Dr. Lisa Facey-Shaw, thank you so much, Doc. It's amazing having someone to work with who is an expert and who knows the subject matter inside and out. And it was great having you work with us, partnering with you. It took us a couple of weeks to figure this out, and it was great working with you and getting to know you at the very same time. I hope you don't become a stranger just because we had one webinar and then you're choops and gone.
Oh, not at all, Francis. And just one quick thing. I mean, even though we mentioned 10 things here, it's not that there are only 10 elements. There are other elements of gamification. So these were just the 10 that we identified that we thought would bring to the webinar tonight.
That's why you have to send me the email if you want to hear the other ones from Dr. Lisa Facey-Shaw. All right. So guys, we're going to go over into networking mode. So We have about a few minutes to go meet other people before the room closes on us. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your engagement. You are awesome. I wish we had a whole day, but boy, it went so fast. I really appreciate your effort and your engagement. We're going over there now. 5 minutes left. See you over there. Bye.